Hello, my humanoids, and welcome back to my channel. Today will be the first episode, and probably many to come, on book writing. Now, I have said in a few of my other videos that I actually have written my first book. I basically wrote most of it during NaNoWriMo last year, which I participated in and will also be doing this year for my other book idea. And I did actually document my experience of writing that book and my NaNoWriMo experience, but that was on an old channel that got deleted for copyright, which I will again make another video separately about that whole fiasco. But I thought I would just kind of walk you through my experience of writing my first book, kind of show you some things I did, because I know personally, as a first time writer, it's daunting, especially if you're someone who maybe never thought you wanted to be a writer or never took, college courses to be a writer or really knows anybody that is a writer and you don't think you're a good writer. We all have these things in our head when we start writing. And that's why it took me so long to finally write a book, because it was daunting and it was scary and I didn't think it was going to work out, and I thought it was just for fun, but then I realized I had a passion for it. And there's so many emotions that go through a writer or an artist. It's crazy the self-doubt you can have on these things. NaNoWriMo really helped me get past that. So one thing that I have learned through watching hours and hours of YouTube videos is that when you start a book, it's crucial that you have an outline. There always is an exception to the rule. There are some people who can just fly off the seat of their pants and come up with something awesome, and I am jealous of you and I hate you. But some of us can't. And one of the YouTubers I love watching, her name is Jenna Moresi. I will leave a link to her channel down below. She has tons of videos on all types of things related to book writing, and she is amazing and funny, and I love her. But she really is one of the inspirations I had going into NaNoWriMo for how to structure a book and how to kind of keep it so you don't overwhelm yourself. So the first thing that she had taught, I'm not sure you can be able to see this, but was to do like a character outline. And you need to know every single thing about your characters. You need to know what their favorite food is, their favorite song, their whole entire childhood, how they were brought up, their names, their age, their heights, what they look like. Even if you don't put all this information into your story, you as an author need to know. So when something happens in a book that you're writing, you know exactly how your character is going to react, and you're not going to be sitting there like, okay, well, how would this work? You will already know before you start writing. So that's something that I did for a really long time, was figuring out who my characters were all the way through to the nitty-gritty. Now, another thing that I did, which I think a lot of people do, is I would write down book ideas as they came into my head, no matter what they were, even if they weren't related to the book I was writing. If you have an idea, write it down. You don't even have to actually physically write it down. You can put it in your phone, because I know a lot of us walk around with phones instead of writing, but I actually love to physically write, hence why I have all these papers. But you can have an idea and forget it in 10 minutes, sometimes even a minute. If you have it, write it down. You may never use it, but especially if you're going to be somebody who is going to be wanting to write books and get published, even if you're going to self-publish, you need to have ideas of where you're going. You need to have goals. It is very, very important. Another thing I liked to do is I would brainstorm my book. And how I would do it is I would almost do it in chapter form. Okay, my first chapter is this. So in mine it was, I will always find you. Was that what my first chapter was? Anyway, I got really into my brainstorming here. But basically I would write down kind of where I would be going in my story. So Evelyn falls in love with Christian, which that name has changed now. Um, Evelyn knows it's time to leave Jonathan. And I would make these little steps into figuring out where my story was going again. So that way, when I actually was in the writing process, I wasn't overwhelming myself like, okay, where do I go now? I'm here, but how do I get there? And what's going to happen once I get there? You need to map it out. There are plenty of programs that you can use for this type of stuff. You don't have to obviously do it the way I did it, but this is just how I liked to do it. Everything's colored and pretty, and I'm weird, okay? Now, oh my goodness, I have papers everywhere. Here's another brainstorming sheet. This one was actually like one of the first brainstorming sheets I ever did. I think all the names are different now. My main character's name used to be Lucella instead of Evelyn, and the main character's name was Noah instead of, well, now it's Rafe. I've went from Noah to Christian to Rafe. Uh, many name changes, but that's, I mean, that's part of the book process. As you continue to write, as it moves forward, things change, and change is okay. It's okay. Do not be scared of change. It's only going to make things better. Excuse me. Here I also have the storyline, basically a synopsis for myself of what I wanted the story to be like. And then when I was feeling really ambitious back in the day, when I first started writing this, I was actually handwriting my book. So here's my preface, which I finally learned exactly what a preface is used for, so I don't actually need this in my book. I will link a video to that from Jenna Moresi down below because she talks about when and when not to have a preface. But here, literally, my first chapter, I hand wrote everything. And I stopped trying to do punctuation in paragraphs some ways through. As you can see, this is really old. I ripped this a long time ago. Here we got to chapter 4 of my book. I think I got to chapter 5 or 6 in here. Let's see. Oh, I got to chapter 5 before I stopped writing it by hand. Now, if you're somebody who loves to handwrite, by all means, handwrite your book. You do not have to get a fancy program or anything to write your book. Write it in a journal, write it on a notepad. Who cares? Write wherever it makes you comfortable. Now, when I was doing NaNoWriMo, I was using Google Docs. Um, gosh, excuse me. I was using Google Docs, and I just found that really easy. It's basically like Word. You can open up like thesaurus. I can't say that word. You know what I'm talking about? The little thing that shows you different meanings or different words for the same meaning kind of thing. Yeah, you can do a dictionary. There's spell check. There's all kinds of interesting things in there. Book writing can be scary. It can be hard, and I still have self-doubt all the time. It's, even though I've written a book, I still am like, okay, the people that are reading it, are they going to like it? And I actually honestly have not read my book since I finished writing it a year ago. I have not. I have gone through and edited some things myself, but until I get feedback from others, I don't want to read it and start making corrections because I don't know if the things I'm correcting are going to stay because I may change the entire storyline. I have no clue what I'm going to do. So that kind of just gives you an outline of what I did for my first book writing experiences. And it took me a long time to get where I am right now. And like I said, I've had that self-doubt, and I don't know what to tell you to get rid of that. I don't know if anybody can tell you how to get rid of that. But if you have a story inside of you, share it. Yes, one thing that really bothers me is when people worry about it being like something else. Well, all art is a reflection or an inspiration of something else. There may be something else, yes, out there that's similar to your story. Unless you're actually copying a book or a movie or TV show word for word, it's still you. No one's going to be able to tell a story like you in your voice. And your characters are going to have different depth because you've experienced things differently. And I will talk about this subject more in depth in another video as well, but one thing that you learn in publishing is that when you're marketing your book or writing your query letter to a literary agent, they say that they want you to tell them how it's going to stand out or how they can market it, about your competition, things like that. And one thing, it is good to know what your book is familiar to, because then they know what direction to take your book in. So if you're writing a book that's very much like Twilight, let them know that that's your marketplace. If you're somebody who is more like Stephen King, let them know that, because they can market it that way. And I will get into that with a little bit more detail to fully explain it to you. I have learned so much researching things on YouTube and over the internet in the past year, looking into a literary agent, which I have not done anything with that yet because it's daunting as well. Book writing is the easiest part of this whole process and the most rewarding. And just, if you have a story, just write it. I want to know what it is. I'll read it because it needs to get out there. You don't want to live your life regretting not getting it out of you, whether it's, you know, a painter or a musician, a photographer, a book writer, a screenplay, whatever it is, get it out there. The worst thing that can happen is you just have the knowledge of knowing, hey, I did it. I didn't let my self doubt keep me back. I actually wrote the book. I actually went out and tried to be an actor or a singer or whatever the case may be. I have faith in you. If I can do it, let me say, if I can do it, you guys can do it. So that is it for the first episode. There will be many to come. I promise you, we will get into all kinds of things about getting into writing your first book and NaNoWriMo as it comes up upon us. And I love you guys, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.